I suppose there's three types of people. People who have never seen the New Yorker magazine, people who have glanced at the New Yorker magazine, and people who are subscribers to the magazine. This video is for the fans of the magazine, people who are interested in the history of the magazines, its traditions, and how it developed over the years. And these people are pretty familiar with the icon of the New Yorker, the emblem of the New Yorker, which is this guy. This is Eustace Tilley. He appears once a year on the anniversary issue of the New Yorker. This video is about him. The first New Yorker was printed in 1925, but Eustace Tilley is dressed in clothes dating back to the 1800s. He's wearing a very stiff collar. He's wearing a big heavy coat. He's wearing gloves. He's wearing a top hat and a monocle, which he is viewing a butterfly that happens to appear in his view. His eyes are kind of half opened. He's just kind of glancing at it. He's not particularly astonished by it, but he is curious about this butterfly. So the story goes about the New Yorker. The history of this character is that he was drawn by Ree Irvin, who was the first art editor of the New Yorker. He was also a cartoonist, illustrator. He had a very successful career in publishing. Ree Irvin used the illustration of an English gentleman by the name of Alfred d'Orsay, also known as Comte d'Orsay. Here's the drawing that is said to be that Eustace Tilley is based on. And here are some other depictions of d'Orsay. The main thing I notice is that's similar is his kind of attitude. He's a dandy. He appears very high society, well off, sophisticated, urban dweller has superior manners and superior education, and he cares about fashion and what's going on in the world. After this was drawn, there was another contributor to the New Yorker named Corey Ford, and he applied the name Eustace Tilley to this drawing. And later there was some cartoons based on Eustace in the early years of the New Yorker. In the last couple of decades, the art editor of the New Yorker has played around with the Eustace Tilley theme and used present day characters you might see in New York rather than Eustace Tilley. Always with the basic format, the template of Eustace with the profile, the monocle, and looking at a butterfly. So that's the basic history. Now let's go up to 2005, where there was a piece written in the New Yorker by Louis Menand, and it's called Mystery Man. And it's a short bio of Eustace Tilley, and it's basically what tells you what I told you. I would consider this a definitive history of Eustace Tilley. It's written by Louis Menand, and he is has a very high reputation. He's been an associate editor of the New York Republic, editor of the New Yorker, contributing editor of the New York Review of Books, professor at Harvard, Princeton, Columbia. He's got many citations of his distinguished career. Now, the fact that this was in the New Yorker magazine, that the editors of the New Yorker approved this and printed it, this should be the definitive history of Eustace Tilley. And it's basically exactly what I told you. Ree Irvin, Corey Ford, and the modern usage of Eustace Tilley. But there is one problem with this history. The drawing of the Comte d'Orsay, explains the profile, the top hat, the haughty manner, the sophistication of the character, but it leaves something out, the monocle and the butterfly. What's the origin of that? Louis Menand does not mention it. Here's where I come in. I came across a literary version of Eustace Tilley, and it happened when I was reading Marcel Proust. Marcel Proust And many literary people have heard of Marcel Proust, who wrote a multi-volume book called Remembrance of Things Past. This is the one I'm reading now, volume 2, but most people read volume 1 first, and that's what I did too. And here's volume 1. Now, in this book, which I bought in 1991, it's the Definitive French Pléiade edition, translated by C.K. Scott Moncrief and Terence Kilmartin. First Vintage Books edition, September 1982. It's an excellent book. I recommend it to everybody. On page 783, I came across, at the bottom of the page, the narrator of the book is in a hotel, and he sees a man walking across the hotel. Here is a quote from the book. He strode rapidly across the whole width of the hotel, seeming to be in pursuit of his monocle, which kept darting away from him like a butterfly. End quote. The man he's looking at is Robert de St. Loup, who later in the book becomes a significant character, a very great friend of the narrator. Okay, so let's go over that again. Robert de St. Loup. He strode rapidly across the whole width of the hotel, seeming to be in pursuit of his monocle, which kept darting away from him like a butterfly. I wrote right here, New Yorker emblem. Okay, so now let's examine this a little closer. This character is wearing a monocle, he's walking forward, and he makes the metaphor of the monocle as a butterfly. So it's kind of, as we know, butterflies aren't really stable in flight. They're moving around, and they dart here and there, dart there, but he's kind of, I take that to mean that his monocle is leading him across the hotel lobby. So that's an amusing image of a character in a book, and it's just an example of Proust's very fine sense of humor. To wrap it into our theme, we have a character, he has a monocle and a butterfly, and that brings us to Eustace Tilley, who has a monocle and he's looking at a butterfly. So I think these two are connected. What I think happened was, let's check the years on this first. Proust began writing his book in 1913. From what I read, the translations in English have started to appear in 1922. Now, the first New Yorker is 1925. So it's very conceivable that Ree Irvin read one of the translations, maybe one of his friends read the translation and told him about it, or maybe it was just conversational party talk during that time. But it's very interesting. It was a very significant book in its period. I believe Ree Irvin connected the original Comte d'Orsay drawing. He added the monocle and viewing the butterfly, and that's how he came up with his character, which was named Eustace Tilley. When I wrote this, I wrote down New Yorker emblem, and I thought, oh, everybody must know this. You know, oh, that's where they got the New Yorker emblem. Everybody must know this. And then I was rereading this book this year in 2018, and I thought, wow, I've never even seen anybody say anything about that. And I did a little research. I saw the Louis Menand article, and he didn't mention it. And I thought, wow, I guess people don't know this. So I thought I would put this video out there and share it with everyone and see if anybody can disprove me. Makes me wonder, here is the New Yorker with such literary contributors and editors and readers, and Louis Menand, who's a professor at all these great universities, and he's an editor, and no one ever, don't these people read Proust? I thought he was kind of, I thought Proust was a basic literary reading for these New Yorker types, but as far as I can tell, they missed what was happening on at the bottom of page 783 of Within a Buddy Grove. So, if you think you can disprove me, let me know. Thanks for watching.